Hey there, everyone. It's Matt Donahue with Mission Financial Planners. This is your weekly update for the week ending April 5th, 2024. I'm recording late in the day on Monday, April 8th. Today was eclipse day, and here in Central Texas, it was cloudy. So, a bit of a letdown for everyone, but I must say it was interesting seeing it look like late or early evening, early morning for about 20 minutes earlier today. But with the clouds, you just couldn't tell. You just couldn't tell. We're going to talk about a bunch today. So the eclipse. We're going to talk about the markets from last week. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the different things you can do to pay your taxes, philosophy, and we're going to talk about aging a little bit as well. So let's jump into it. First of all, there's a modest retreat. When we look at the prospect that an initial interest rate cut could be delayed until the second half of the year, that really weighed on stocks owing to strong economic data and cautious comments from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Major indices dropped more than 1% on Thursday, and a partial recovery on Friday didn't prevent stocks from posting weekly declines. Upside job surprise, high interest rates again appeared to do little to hold back the U.S. labor market as March's jobs gain of 303,000 exceeded economists' expectations for around 205,000. Big difference. The latest figure was the biggest in 10 months, matching the 303,000 jobs added on May 2023. The unemployment rate slipped to 3.8 from 3.9% the previous month. Yields surged. The yield of the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond rose to the highest level in more than 4 months as the latest jobs data exerted further upward pressure amid a shifting interest rate outlook. The yield closed around 4.39% on Friday, up from the prior week's close of 4.2. Oil and gold rose as well for the second week in a row. Oil and gold posted solid price gains, extending their run of recently strong results for both of those commodities. U.S. crude oil was trading at nearly $87 a barrel on Friday afternoon, up from $83 at the end of the previous week and $71 at the start of 2024. Gold spot prices on Friday were around $23.45 per ounce, a record high. So if you've got that gold, hang on to it. It's still high. Maybe you want to, pare a little back, right? But gold's doing well. Earnings outlook. As major banks prepare to open quarterly earnings season, analysts on Friday expected that first quarter earnings per share for companies in the S&P 500 would have risen by an average of 3.2%. That's according to FactSet. Such an outcome would mark the third consecutive quarter of year-over-year earnings growth. Euro inflation. The 20 nations that use the euro currency reported a steeper than expected decline in inflation, with consumer prices rising at an annual rate of 2.4% in March versus 2.6% in the previous month. While the Eurozone's inflation rate has steadily declined this year, the European Central Bank isn't expecting to begin cutting interest rates until June. Volatility picked up as U.S. stocks fell on Thursday. An index that tracks investors' expectations of short-term market volatility surged to its highest closing level in more than 5 months. The CBOE Volatility Index subsequently pulled back slightly on Friday, but nevertheless did close about 23% higher than the previous week. Consumer Price Index report is scheduled for release on Wednesday. That'll show us whether the recent trend of slightly hotter than expected inflation extended into March. Last month's CPI report showed an annual rate of 3.2, up from 3.1 the previous month. A separate report on wholesale prices also showed a slightly higher than expected inflation. Reports this week, nothing for today or tomorrow. I guess everybody's doing the eclipse and then is recovering from the eclipse. Again, it was kind of underwhelming here. Wednesday, Consumer Price Index, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, also the release of minutes from the March 1920 meeting of the U.S. Federal Reserve, wholesale inventories from the U.S. Census Bureau, federal budget from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Thursday, Producer Price Index from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the weekly unemployment claims from the U.S. Department of Labor. Friday, University of Michigan Index of Consumer Sentiment, and their preliminary result. And finally, the export and import prices from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Philosophy. Let's get into that. Expect to change your opinions. There are two things that must be rooted out in human beings: arrogant opinion and mistrust. Arrogant opinion expects that there is nothing further needed, and mistrust assumes that under the torrent of circumstance, there can be no happiness. And this comes from Epictetus, his discourses. So what does that mean? We see it a lot in financial planning, and essentially, folks, what it means is you have to recognize that you don't know everything, and just because you've experienced a lot in your life doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to go. So it's important to realize that things are going to change over time, things that are beyond our control, things that maybe we didn't appreciate, but we have to have the humility to acknowledge that we don't know everything. That's really what it comes down to. If we have the humility to acknowledge we don't know everything, we probably have the humility to acknowledge that maybe other people do have something of value to bring to a conversation, to your life. And guess what? If they don't, like I heard Ken Reeves say the other day on a video clip I saw, hey, there's 7 billion people on the planet. If one person shows you that they don't value you in some way, shape, or form, great, because that means there's 6,999,999 whatever people out there who might value who you are, what you have to say, what your thoughts are. And that one person who just checked themselves off your list, hey, that's one less person for you to worry about. Some tax tips for you in terms of paying income taxes and estimated taxes. I'm going to push you back to the blog on this one because there are literally 15 tips on different ways you can pay taxes. I'm just going to touch on just a couple of those. So, as most of you know, when you pay your taxes, if you're going to e-file, you can do it, essentially virtually, right? Just remember, you're going to pay some convenience fees because you most likely will be paying with a credit or a debit card. However, couple things to keep in mind too. If you're not able to pay in full, like let's say you have an unusually large tax bill this year for some reason, if you're not able to pay in full, you can get into an installment plan with the IRS. If you owe up to $50,000, you can file a form 9465, and inform the IRS as to which date each month the tax bill will be paid and what amount. If you complete the payment plan within 72 months or 6 years, they're required to accept the plan under the new regulations, and they will not file a tax lien. Okay. If more than $50,000 is owed, you need a Form 9465 and a financial statement disclosure Form 433A for personal assets or Form 433B for business assets. And if you owe more than $50,000, the IRS will file a tax lien while you are making payments. Each program will charge a setup fee and interest. Interest is compounded daily, not monthly, and you have to also agree to keep current on tax filings and future tax payments for the next 5 years as well. You can do one of these plans. It's a one-time only. It's not meant to be used year after year, and the IRS will terminate the plan after you start if you don't pay future taxes on time while that installment plan is still in place. You can also ask for a short extension of up to 120 days. This is available on the IRS under the online payment agreement tool. With the extension, there are reduced penalties and interest, and no setup fee is required. Couple other things to think about as well. When you if you don't have taxes withheld from your pay or you don't have enough taxes withheld, you might need to make estimated tax payments for the current year. If you're self-employed, you normally are going to pay your taxes this way, but here's some tips about estimated taxes, okay? Pay estimated taxes if you think you're going to owe more than $1,000 or more when you file your federal return. Estimate the amount of income you expect to receive for the year to determine the taxes you might owe. You might want to consider tax deductions and credits you're eligible to claim. Maybe you end up with a refund if you don't. But remember, life changes are going to have a big impact on how you file, right? You get married, you have a birth of a child, right? Those things are going to change your tax status. You're normally going to make estimated tax payments 4 times a year. That's going to be April 15, June 16, September 15, and January 15. You can pay online or over the phone. You can also pay your estimated cash taxes in cash if you want to. Go to irs.gov/payments for help. And then finally, as always, work with a tax professional to figure out what's really the best thing for you. Health tip of the week. We're going to talk about longevity. It starts with the better understanding of some of the complexities of aging. It's an interesting article. It comes from the Mayo Clinic. A lot of us get focused on genetics. Oh, my mom lived till this age, so I'm going to be this old, or my dad lived to this age. If you read the article, it's really interesting. They only they say that only 24% of your likelihood for longevity comes from genetics. There's a lot of other things that happen as well, including environmental influences. So, we don't really, there's still, a lot that doctors and scientists don't know. They're always finding out new stuff, right? Which really makes it fascinating. So, couple things to think about just at a very high level. One is genetic damage. It occurs over time, and there's a lot of different reasons for it, but your DNA becomes damaged. And your body has a lot of ways to repair DNA, but as the damage accumulates, now you're going to start to have problems. Okay, that damage can come from a variety of sources, whether internal or external. But what a lot of it comes down to is don't get too much sun, eat a healthy diet, try to get some exercise, right? Um, if you're eating, a lot of food that has antioxidants, that seems like that's going to help, because that's not just going to help with DNA, it's also going to help with something called cellular clutter, which is a fascinating term. Like, my cells are cluttered, really? How does that happen? But essentially, your body's genes have proteins, right? And it converts them into forms that allow them to become the building blocks of pretty much every cell, right? And they all have a unique function. Well, that protein regulation is called autophagy. I think I'm saying that right. And that's the name for the process your body uses to get rid of damaged cells, and stay healthy, right? Sometimes that doesn't work the way it should, and that's when you start having problems. It's fascinating stuff. There's another thing called cellular senescence. And that's, again, goes back to cellular degeneration, right? The cells can eventually stop dividing and enter what's called like a zombie state. Okay. The body naturally gets rid of a lot of those, but not all of them, right? And if they can build up, they can cause issues. Chronic inflammation, well, inflammation is a natural response to something and can help your body recover from illness and injury. It can also cause issues. So low grade chronic inflammation, a lot of times that's going to be caused like an unhealthy diet, not enough exercise, too much stress, pollutants, medical conditions, right? Um, so, and the other thing, we've all heard this gut biome or gut health. Well, that has a lot of effect on it too. So you want to try to eat healthy, as much as you can. There's a great book that the Mayo Clinic put out there, and it is called Ageless Aging. Okay, it's a way for women to look at aging. There's a ton of great information in there. So to just give you a couple things that they talk about, women, ladies, you need to expect to live up to 5 years longer than men. 50-year-old woman, for example, can live another 35 years on average. Women are 80% of centennials, right? But women typically spend the last 14 years of their lives in a series of degenerative health issues. Okay. Um, Current research says, hey, 70 to 90% of your health and longevity is under your control, as opposed to your genes. Okay. So take advantage of some of those measures: the health, the diet, the exercise, getting out and doing things, being around other people, right? All that stuff's good for you. All that stuff's good for you. Ageless Aging. It's from the Mayo Clinic. If you go to their website, go to their bookstore. It's fascinating stuff. There's also a couple great books for men as well. If you do buy a book from the Mayo Clinic, all the proceeds are invested back into furthering medical research and education that they do. But thank you, everyone. We really appreciate everything that you do. Hopefully, this is very helpful. I hope you got a chance, wherever you are, to actually see the eclipse today. Of course, we didn't. But this is Matt Donahue signing off for the week. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Live well.